Hi everyone, welcome to Lola's Frugal Life. This is episode number 283. Today we're going to be talking about the rule of three for productivity. So please stick around for a few quick words from our sponsor and we'll get right into the show. So today I wanted to talk about a productivity topic that is called the rule of three. So I'm currently reading, listening to the book Hyperfocus. It's called Hyperfocus, How to Be More Productive in a World of Distraction, and it's by Chris Bailey. So I haven't completed the book yet, but I'm in the middle of it right now. And one of the topics that he covered was a productivity tip that was referred to as the rule of three. So I thought when I heard this, I'm sure as you guys know, if you've listened for a while, I kind of mix in like productivity type episodes, time management, stuff like that in between the frugal topics. Sometimes other stuff too, but especially like the productivity type stuff because that's something that I really love too, in addition to different frugality type topics. So when I heard that, I thought, oh, this is a great topic for the podcast because I just really love the idea of using the rule of three. So this isn't something that Chris Bailey specifically came up with, but he mentions where he had learned it from, but I honestly can't remember who he said, but it's in his book, Hyperfocus. So basically the rule states that you write down just 3 things that you want to accomplish today, this week, and this year. So basically the idea is that by allowing only 3 things on your list, you're forced to really think about what is most important. Because having only 3 things to focus on helps you stay focused on just getting those things done. Otherwise, we can end up feeling really overwhelmed with this huge list of things to do, and then often that causes us to procrastinate and not get anything or much less done. Not necessarily not get anything done, but definitely get much less done because we can't decide what should be done first. So we spend time looking at that to-do list in between every task, trying to figure out which item we should take care of next. So it kind of like winds up wasting time because instead of just determining right up front what are the 3 most important things, you're kind of reassessing it every time you're ready to start another task. So he basically describes 4 steps of using the rule of 3. So you are supposed to start every day by first deciding what you'll focus on today. You want to test yourself throughout the day to make sure that you remember what those things are that you're supposed to be focusing on, because as we know, other things can come up and kind of distract us and throw us off course. You also want to pay attention to how long each task takes so that you can help improve future time estimates. You know, like if you're not really sure how long different things take, by kind of making sure you're taking note of those. In the future, you can better plan your time and how much you can actually get done in a day by kind of taking note of how long things actually take to get done. And then, of course, you want to acknowledge your achievements at the end of the day or the end of the week or month or whatever different rule of 3 planning part you're working on. You know, you want to make sure that you're recognizing the things that you did because that can help be really motivating to get you staying on track for the things that you want to accomplish in the future. So the first step, like I said, was deciding what to focus on today. So this can be done, you know, like first thing in the morning, or you can do it the night before. I haven't really started like really officially like using like this rule of 3 yet specifically, but I do something similar at work. So like at the end of each of my work days, I look at my planner and see what I have left on my to-do list. And then I decide what's most important to focus on the next day. That way, as soon as I get into work, I just look at my planner and I know exactly what to start working on instead of using some of that most productive time reviewing my to-do list, you know, and trying to figure out what I'm going to work on that day. Because for me, my most productive time is the morning. Like I'm totally a morning person. So if I can have my list ready to go, the night before, I find easier to kind of like look through the list and decide what is most important, what I really want to work on the next day. But then when I get in, I don't want to have to take time. I would just want to look at the list and just jump right in to what I have to do. So whatever time makes most sense to you, either in the morning or the night before, the idea is that you really want to look at that list and pick 3 things that are most important to you. Because when you're deciding on the 3 things that you'll focus on for the day, you're forced to eliminate those things that aren't as important. You have to really be picky about what ones you're going to pick, because you have that limitation put on yourself. And you also want to make sure that when you're deciding what you're going to focus on today, that you consider what else you have on your calendar. If you have appointments or other things that can't be moved, you want to make sure that you pick your 3 things that kind of align with how much time you have that day. Like if you have a day where you have, an appointment for maybe like the doctor or the dentist or whatever, or you have like a really long day at work and then you have to go grocery shopping afterwards, you want to pick things that take a much smaller amount of time. Maybe it's going to be like making a phone call to make an appointment, or something that's important that you want to get done, but it's not very time consuming. And then of course, if you have an entire free day, then you would want to pick some things that maybe are more involved and time consuming, so you can get those taken care of on that day when you have a little bit more time. So then the next step, like I mentioned before, was testing yourself throughout the day. So if you're setting 3 things to achieve in a day, you want to make sure that you actually remember what those things are during the day. We all have days when we make a list of what we're going to do, and then we just let the day get taken from us with other things. And sometimes there's no way to control what other important things might come up. But a lot of times, the other things that come up are not really super important. You might get sucked into checking emails, or maybe you're putting something away in a cabinet. Next thing you know, you're taking everything out and reorganizing it. You can really kind of get distracted with just random things that come up during the day that really aren't super important but can take up a lot of your time. So really trying to remind yourself during the day and make sure that you are thinking of those 3 things and keeping focused so that you can get those accomplished before letting other distractions kind of take you away from that. And it kind of helps you remember what your priorities are, so that maybe when you're doing something else, you might think like, is this really helping me get those 3 things done? Maybe this isn't the best time to do this. So just kind of reminding yourself throughout the day what those tasks are, just to kind of help get you back on track if you kind of get distracted and go down a different path. So the 3rd step was paying attention to how long each task takes you. So I know a lot of times it can be difficult to determine how long certain tasks will take to complete. So a lot of times, we might think something takes much longer than it does, like say, for example, the dishes or laundry or things like that. But then for other tasks, we vastly underestimate the amount of time that something's going to take. I know, for example, there's many times that I create a list of what I think I can get done in a certain amount of time, and it is so far off, it's ridiculous. I'll get like a couple of the things done and I think, oh my gosh, how on earth did I possibly think I could get all this done in one day? So when we're trying to set 3 priorities for the day, it's really important to get the time estimates correct, or we might end up setting unrealistic goals. So, it might be difficult at first to get a good estimate on how long something might take, but if you pay attention as you're doing those things, then you'll have that info to use for the future. So today you might end up with too much on your plate because you thought the 3 things that you chose would take less time than they really do. But if you make sure you pay attention to that, then you can plan more appropriately in the future. So then the 4th step was acknowledging your achievements. So of course it feels great to be able to check things off our to-do list. And even if you only get one of your 3 things done today, make sure you acknowledge it, because that one thing that you had on your list was one of the most important things that you wanted to get done. So it's not like you just got like some random little thing done. You got something done that was really important to you. So whether you get one of the things done or you get all 3 things done, acknowledge what you did, because sometimes we don't think to acknowledge what we achieved during the day. And by the end of the day, you can kind of think like, oh, I didn't really get much done today. I wish I would have accomplished more. And if you think back and say, hey, I had this list of 3 things and I got either one of them done or all of them done, you got something really important done today. So make sure to acknowledge that, and then that can kind of help you, help encourage you to do something like this in the future too, as on days that you really need to get some important things done. So the reason that this rule works really well is because it really is simple and it forces us to focus. It's really difficult to look at a list of 20 things on a to-do list and decide where to even begin. We all want to feel productive, so having a long to-do list can actually encourage us to work on the less important things because they can be quickly checked off. I know I have done this myself too sometimes, and I have to often make sure I do not allow myself to do this, because sometimes you look at a list and you see the things that you can get done quickly and start checking things off the list, and it makes you feel good to check things off the list. But if you really look at what was left behind and what you didn't do was what was really most important, although you got to check off all those boxes, it doesn't really help you in accomplishing what you really need to get done. So by picking just 3 things that are most important to you today, it can really help you focus on your biggest priorities and your most important priorities. So if you plan out your timing right, there's a good chance you can check off all 3 things on your list for the day. And checking off 3 really important things off of a list of 3 really important things feels much better than checking off 8 things that weren't really that important from a list of 20 things to do. So it looks like you still have a ton of stuff left to do, but you checked off more things. If you can isolate that list to just what are your top priorities for the day, it will feel a lot better being able to potentially complete all 3 things. So the rule of 3 is not only for daily planning. At a higher level, they suggest to write a list of 3 things you'd like to accomplish this week, this month, this year. So it can kind of help guide you on what you want to prioritize each day, because some of those things might lead into those other longer term accomplishments that you're looking to get done this year. And you can use this planning for your daily work or for your personal tasks. It can also be used at a higher level for managing many different areas of your life. Like maybe, for example, you want to say, okay, what 3 things do I want to accomplish in my budget this year? Okay, maybe I'm struggling with the grocery budget, pet expenses, and getting my emergency fund to where I want it. So maybe you kind of say, okay, these are the 3 things that I want to really focus on this year. And then maybe each month you could determine what are your goals, what do you want to try and do to work closer towards meeting those, doing those improvements or whatever you're trying to accomplish. And then back down to the daily where you'll say, okay, what things can I do to help achieve these goals? So, some people might want to implement this as a daily practice where you're always focusing on these 3 things each day, 3 things for the week, 3 things for the month or the year, but for many of us, I think that it's just a great tool to have, even if it's not part of our everyday practices. I know it can get overwhelming to kind of try all these different productivity hacks and, habit building and to-do list management and planners and all this kind of stuff. And, I know for me, I try different things at different times. I don't always necessarily stick with the same thing, but I think this rule of 3 is just a great tool to have, even if it's not part of your regular everyday practice. It's great. It's something that you can use for those times that you really just feel that there's too much to do and you need to kind of refocus yourself. And sometimes we have a limited amount of time and we just have to let certain things go, whether we like it or not. There's only a certain amount of time in a day that we can get things done. So when you're having those times when you're really struggling with too many things on your plate, this can be a really good tool to kind of help you focus on what your biggest priorities are. And then at least you'll know that, while you might not be able to get a lot of things done, at least you're getting the most important things done each day. So that's all I have to say about the rule of 3. I hope this is helpful to you in some way. I know I always love hearing these different productivity tips. They just kind of help you feel a little bit more in control of trying to manage all the things that we have to do. So don't forget, you can email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife. The blog posts for each episode are on my website at lolasfrugallife.com. And you can join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would really love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I can see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast, that would be really helpful to me. Those ratings and reviews are what help grow the show, and it's also really fun for me when I see that I got a new review. I do check every day. I haven't gotten one in a while, but I know I'll get another one soon. I understand a lot of people just don't leave reviews, so that's fine. But if you are feeling like you want to do that, I would really, really appreciate it. And also, there is a link to financially support the show if that's something you're interested in the episode notes. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a really awesome day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. If there is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals, BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line, it's not self-help, it's professional counseling done securely online. There is a broad range of expertise available, which may not be available to you locally. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit betterhelp.com/Lola, that's better HELP, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Lola's Frugal Life listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Lola.